Yes, I know. After years of hearing about the importance of maintaining a high cadence when running, at least 180 steps per minute, I'm here today to tell you the opposite. You can become faster with an extra low cadence. Because used correctly, a really low cadence, let's say at least 15 steps per minute less than you have when you usually run, that can help you smash your personal best and crush your competitors in the future. Welcome to another episode with me, Fredrik Zillén, your running technique specialist, who is as important to your running as your rubber duck is to your bathtub. Let me first check that I don't have any new viewers who still believe the myth of a cadence of 180, and that is some kind of magic number that everyone, regardless of background and pace they run, they should have as a cadence. Because that is not the case, of course. It varies greatly among equally fast elite runners who maintain the same pace. And during a 10,000 meter race, there can be a difference of nearly 30 steps per minute for the same runner during the same race, depending on where they are in the race. Again, a difference of 30 steps per minute for the same runner during the same 10,000 meter race. So it's not likely that there's one cadence that is the best for everyone. I've made several videos about this, presenting all the facts and statistics to back all these claims, so let's leave that whole thing behind and move on to the topic of this video. But just because 180 steps per minute isn't some magical number that you should achieve all the time, I'm not saying that it's bad, and I'm not saying that a very low cadence is good. Because it isn't, at least not in competition. But it can be beneficial during training. So take a look here now. This is me running at the pace of 5 minutes per kilometer, approximately 803 minutes per mile. And here I have a cadence of 172 steps, which according to my software puts me in the green zone, which is where I should be for the distance and the tempo and the running style that I try to achieve. And now I'm running at the same pace, 5 minutes per kilometer, 803 per mile, but with a cadence of 153. So what does this mean for my running? Let's take a look at what my 3D cameras and the motion metrics software has to say. My first test, when I had a cadence of 172, which is the large white arrow, while the test number 2 is the smaller blue arrow. And as a rule, cadence affects how much your center of gravity moves up and down. This was also the case here, as the vertical movement of my center of mass was 83.5 millimeters when I had the cadence of 172 and 110 millimeters when I had the cadence of 153. The higher vertical displacement also means that I land with greater vertical force, which we can see here. And the vertical force is 2.54 times my body weight when I had the cadence of 172 and 2.82 times my body weight when I ran with the cadence of 153. Did this higher vertical force increase the load on my joints and muscles and everything else in my body? Yes. And that can possibly lead to an increased risk of injury, but it also means that the energy return I get from my body's own rubber band system effect, the stretch shortening cycle, increased, which can be beneficial as long as I'm strong enough and can handle the increased forces. Yes. Now, I got a bit sidetracked, but let's continue with the sidetrack, because since many people believe that a low cadence always leads to overstride, we can also look at the number there to be on the safe side and conclude that there is basically no difference in where I land in relation to my center of mass in the two tests. That is also just a myth, which I have discussed in another video, namely this one, or whatever. But let's leave all that aside and instead conclude that the extra low cadence creates higher force in my body. And that can actually be a good thing in more ways than just increasing my energy return. And this is where we get to the point of this video, finally. When you are at the gym, you choose really heavy weights, right? And the exercise bounding is one of my favorites because it's very similar to running, but puts much more load on the body than when you just run. So running with a cadence that is a little too low can therefore, in an excellent way, train you to become a stronger runner. What I want you to do is to run at a steady pace and for a short period of time, maybe just 10 seconds in the beginning, change your cadence to a significantly lower cadence while keeping the same pace as before. Like this. Normal cadence, low cadence. It's like a micro version of bounding. Normal cadence. If you think of it as bounding, but just a little toned down, this usually works quite well to think about it in that way. Normal cadence, low cadence, and back to normal cadence. And it's good if you think more about jumping higher than getting as far forward as possible with each step. The easiest way to do this is to run to music or a metronome that you make sure to have a BPM that is slightly lower than the cadence you usually have. Start by training like this when you go uphill, as it puts less load on your body. Remember, it's not the lifting yourself higher that is the hard part here, but it's the landing with significantly higher vertical force that we are talking about, that we are supposed to train now. And when you run uphill, the vertical forces are lower than when you run on flat ground, which makes it a good place to start with this exercise. Start with maybe 10 seconds, for example. Once you get used to it, you can increase the length of time you run with a low cadence, or you can lower the cadence even more, or both. Once you have become stronger, you can do the same thing but on flat ground. But then, of course, you reduce the time again and start all over at 10 seconds or maybe just 5 seconds. No, you should not move on and then do the same thing downhill. Downhill generates enough eccentric forces anyway without you needing to increase them even more. So make sure to load your headphones with music that gives you a cadence that is slightly lower than your normal cadence. Or just use a metronome, which is available as a free app. You can just download it. And if you don't know your cadence and don't have a watch that can tell you what it is, you can count how many steps you take with 1 foot like for 30 seconds. Then multiply that by 4 and you have your cadence. And remember that you probably have a higher cadence when you run faster. So count when you maintain your kind of like usual pace. And the pace when you are going to do this low cadence exercise thing. So how do you find songs then that have the slightly lower BPM than your normal cadence? Well, if you have a Spotify account, you can easily create a playlist with songs in a specific cadence that only contains your favorite artist or group on the website beatrunner.app. It's spelled like this. There you can just type in your favorite band or artist and the BPM you want, and it will create a playlist in music in style of your favorite artist or group. And if you want to know the BPM for a special song, you can easily check it at, for example, songbpm.com, spelled like this. Just enter a song and you get the answer. And remember to take it easy at first. Don't set your cadence too low and run like that for too long. You won't get faster by not running because you injured yourself by putting more load on your body than it could handle, just because I told you this was good stuff. And that's all for this time. See you in another video or in my online course that has gotten reviews like this.